All right, so by the way, LSU basketball. What the hell, man? Hey, how did we end this show yesterday, Musso? How did we end the show yesterday?
Well, you asked Paul and myself if we were worried.
And what did you goobers say?
Said no.
Yeah. Paul, what did you say?
We were talking about the game?
Shut up, Paul. So mad at you right now. So mad at everything right now. Not really mad at everything. But it's how, like, play this. This is it. This is how we ended the show yesterday. Play it. Here it is.
Not really, no.
Paul, you worried about this one?
Not at all.
I'm worried about this one.
That means we're going to lose.
I told you I was worried about this one for a lot of reasons. And I understand that for LSU to lose to a team like Vanderbilt, that it was going to take oddities because LSU was just a better team, right? I mean, LSU, better scoring team, better defensive team, better talent, better coach. Like, everything was the LSU's a better team. But 26-game losing streak, that's going to end at some point. Vanderbilt had played their best basketball against the best teams in the conference. They had a close road loss at Auburn. They had led Kentucky by double digits late in the second half at Rupp before Kentucky came back in the final minutes to win that one. They played a really close game against Florida, 5-6-point game. I think it was 61-55 was the final. They had played, and they had been playing better, and Memorial Gym sucks, and it's a miserable place to play with awful dimensions and sight lines, and it's just a weird vibe, and it was a third full, and it felt disgusting. With LSU having to go to Auburn this weekend, it just felt so gross. Like I knew what I was going to watch. I knew it. I knew we were about to go swan dive into a pile of poo. That's what was going to happen last night. And that's exactly what happened. You let some guy I've literally never even heard of. Be honest, have you ever heard of Max? I'm going to call him Maxwell Smart. I don't even know his name. Maxwell something. Call him Maxwell Smart. Did you even heard of Maxwell Smart before last night?
No.
Yeah, Paul, you ever heard of, what's his name? Evans. Maxwell Evans. You know why I call him Maxwell Smart? Do you remember the 2011 LSU-Kentucky Honey Badger game? All right, Kentucky's that when Tyron came over the guy's shoulders, tripped the ball, and
Yep.
That quarterback was Maxwell Smith. Well, at the time, Alan Risher was doing the postgame show with Hannegriff. And I'm sitting next to Risher in the press box, and the whole game, Risher keeps calling the guy Maxwell Smart, like from Get Smart. He's like, this has an underhanded, or a backhanded, to the face. But he kept calling the kid Maxwell Smart. So that's all. Anytime I see Maxwell, I just default to Risher saying Maxwell Smart. Anyway, you let Maxwell Evans score 31 points in that ball game. I'd never even heard of that kid. He averaged, there's a good reason. He plays on the worst team in the conference and averages 7 a game, and you let him score 31. Record night for Saban Lee. Hell, everybody had a record night last night. 189 points combined between the two teams. It's absurd. And yet LSU still rallied, man. 6:44 left. They came back and took the damn lead. And then what did they do? They start jacking up ill-advised threes. Trendon Watford and Javonte Smart passing the ball to nobody. And then nobody could cut off Saban Lee's dribble drive penetration. Couple of things, and then on the game, we'll talk about the big picture stuff also. The defense on Evans in the first half was disgusting. And that's coaching. LSU played way too much zone. I'm not going to sit here and purport to be an expert, but I also understand if you're playing zone and you're leaving a shooter wide open and he gets hot, then what you need to do is insert Marlon Taylor directly up his rectum and say you're not scoring again. They ultimately did that in the second half, but at that point, the kid had done his damage. And they had belief, and they had scored 52 in the first half, and they were in it. And you were all of a sudden in a dogfight in that point. Despite that, you're still only down 5 points at half. You come back, you take the lead, and then you have those awful turnovers from Javonte Smart and Trendon Watford on consecutive possessions where they throw the ball to absolutely nobody, and you just give away the lead. I also thought Skylar Mays getting his fourth foul was detrimental because it was around the 10-minute mark, but he was a liability on the floor after that because he couldn't defend. I mean, you needed Skylar on the floor, but he couldn't make contact around the basket or he's out. So you were helpless against Saban Lee at that point. That's why every basket he made in the second half was a freaking layup line. Anyway, team that averaged 55 in conference play at 52 at the half, scored 99 for the game. So big picture, I know there's some people today like, they stink, it's over, knew it. They don't stink. They're a really good team. They're 8-1 and still in first place in the conference, and they're still going to be a tournament team. But the key for LSU at this point is you have got to not let this game have a snowball effect. It cannot linger. You're going to Auburn on Saturday, and you're probably going to lose that game because not many people win at Auburn. Like, that's a really tough venue and a really good team. So even if you lose that game, at worst, if you lose to Auburn on Saturday, you are still in a tie for first place in the SEC, and then you are coming home to play Missouri, who stinks. That's the one that is the make or break game for this season. Now, maybe LSU pulls itself up by its bootstraps. It goes to Auburn. It gets motivated because its lip got bloodied and its pride got hurt, and it goes and plays its best game of the season and wins at Auburn. That would be awesome because in the minds of the committee, the only way you counterbalance a bad loss is with a good win, and you really only have three, because you got to go to Florida. It's the at Auburn, home against Kentucky, at Auburn this weekend, home against Kentucky, at Florida are the only three opportunities you really have left for good wins. And Florida is not quite in the same category as the other two. So you can counterbalance that Vanderbilt loss with a good win on Saturday if you get it. But even if you don't, you have got to come home and beat Missouri. Because if you lose to Missouri and that's 3 in a row, and then you're going to Coleman Coliseum, a place where LSU has never done well, and then you're home against Kentucky, and then you got back-to-back road games against South Carolina and Florida, you can see how this thing can unravel. So you have got to go play hard against Auburn, and even if you slip up in that game, come home and beat Missouri. So really, really disappointing day for the Tigers last night at Vanderbilt.